studios in New York City. This is Charlie Rose.
Good evening. In the news tonight, 3 people are injured in an accident at the Crane Ammunition Center, and President Bush says he would pull U.S. troops out of Iraq if he didn't believe the U.S. ultimately will succeed there.
In sports, Al Unser Jr. is returning to auto racing, and the Purdue women's basketball team looks to advance in the NCAA tournament.
Newscenter 22 is next. Three employees of the Crane Naval Surface Warfare Center were hurt today when detonators they were unpacking detonated prematurely. Base officials say the employees were treated initially at Crane's medical facility and were reported to be in stable condition. Local news reports said at least 2 employees were transferred to Bloomington Hospital. The injured workers' names and conditions were not immediately available. When a fragment of a detonator was discovered on a cot used to transport one of the injured workers into the hospital, it prompted a partial evacuation of the emergency room out of fear it could lead to further injury. The National Weather Service has canceled a winter storm warning for central Indiana, now that heavy snow has moved out of the area. But the forecasters say there still could be blowing snow from the early spring storm. Winds up to 25 miles per hour cause drifting and whiteout conditions in some areas. A blowing snow advisory is in effect until 7 o'clock tonight for Knox County. The storm dropped 7.4 inches of snow on Brazil in western Indiana. Indianapolis International Airport reported 5 inches by 10 a.m. Vincennes received about 2 inches. Some schools, including those in Vincennes, closed for the day, while many others delayed the start of classes. Indiana State Police reported dozens of accidents. The storm came after an unseasonably warm winter that left the season's snowfall 30 to 50% below normal in Indiana. Fire destroyed a building housing the Union Township Fire Department in Fort Branch Monday night. Union Township firefighters were on a fire run when the fire broke out. The cause is under investigation. The Vincennes School Corporation has been able to realize a 17% savings in energy costs through a conservation program implemented 4 years ago. Steve Tace, the school corporation's energy management director, told the school board last night that turning off lights and turning down thermostats when classrooms are not in use has enabled the school corporation to reduce energy costs.
We've averaged a little over $100,000 of savings each year. So I believe we're at $467,000 that we've saved over the 4-year period.
Tace says timers installed to automatically turn air handlers on and off have also helped. He noted that Clark Middle School and Lincoln High School rank 1 and 2 respectively in reducing their energy cost over the last 4 years. A Lincoln High School teacher is the latest recipient of the Good Idea Award. Suzanne Swain, a family and consumer science teacher, was recognized for her efforts in working with students who have mental disabilities. Knox County Special Education Director Sandra Lang says Swain has worked hard to make special ed students an equal part of her class.
Without segregating them or separating them, being sensitive to their needs and making them feel a part of the class, accommodating or modifying lessons so that they could participate at their level.
The Good Idea Award was named in honor of the late Mickey Kimberly, a special ed student in the Vincennes School Corporation. The award is given out annually to a staff or faculty member who've gone the extra mile to assist those students who have disabilities. The Vincennes School Board last night voted to sign a petition supporting the school corporation's $57 million building program, pending a legal opinion from their attorney. A 30-day petition campaign both for and against the project is currently underway. Opponents of the plan say it's too expensive and will hurt property taxpayers on fixed and low incomes. Supporters say the schools to be replaced are old and too costly to maintain and don't meet today's educational needs. The school corporation wants to build a new middle school, 2 new elementary schools and relocate Inman Field to Lincoln High School. With the 2006 session of the Indiana General Assembly history, area lawmakers will meet at Vincennes University Saturday for the final Meet Your Legislators Forum of the year. The forum will get underway at 9 a.m. Saturday at Vincennes University's Davis Hall. State Representatives Bruce Borders, Dave Crooks, and Troy Woodruff, and State Senators Lyndall Hume and John Waterman have been invited to attend. For those of you who can't make it to the studio, the program will be aired live on WVUT-TV and WVUB Radio. You can phone in questions or email them. The program will be rebroadcast on WVUT at 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Still to come on Newscenter 22, President Bush continues to be optimistic about the future of Iraq. And good news for this year's college graduates. Stay with us.
Next time on Nova, the earliest known weapons of mass destruction.
The state of the art in hunting weapons.
The fundamental basis for survival in Ice Age America.
Can they help us solve one of the greatest riddles of archaeology? Who were the first Americans?
It's been a holy grail. Who was first?
That's just a question we can't leave unanswered.
America's Stone Age explorers.
President Bush answered a wide range of questions from reporters Thursday. As Kyung Law reports, the president said he wants Americans to know he has a plan for victory in Iraq.
No president wants war. Everything you may have heard is that, but it's just simply not true.
Facing the lowest poll numbers of his presidency and a second term marred by the loss of political capital, the president vigorously defended the war in Iraq. President Bush answering questions from reporters one day after talking to voters in the heartland.
They're capable of blowing up innocent life so it ends up on your TV show. And therefore, it affects the woman in Cleveland you were talking to, and I can understand how Americans are worried about whether or not we can win. And so I would say, yes, I'm optimistic about being able to achieve a victory, but I'm also realistic. I fully understand the consequences of this war. I understand people's lives are being lost, but I also understand the consequences of not achieving our objective by leaving too early.
The president said he did not agree with the former interim Iraqi prime minister who said the country is in the midst of a civil war.
I believe the Iraqis, this is a moment where the Iraqis had a chance to fall apart and they didn't. And that's a positive development.
The president touched on issues like the economy, American dependence on oil, and Iran. But he may have trouble moving ahead on these issues because, just like his poll numbers, his agenda is being dragged down by the war in Iraq. In Washington, I'm Kyung Law.
After more than 18 hours of deliberations, a military jury has found an Army sergeant guilty of using his dog to abuse Iraqi detainees at the Abu Ghraib prison. Michael Smith was convicted on 6 of 13 counts. A sentencing hearing was set for this afternoon in Maryland. At least 28 people have been killed in Iraq attacks today. Officials say 17 police officers, a court guard, and 10 attackers died when gunmen stormed a jail in a Sunni Muslim area north of Baghdad and freed all 33 prisoners there. Most of the prisoners were suspected insurgents. Authorities say the assailants lobbed a mortar round at the police station before storming it on foot, firing automatic rifles and rocket-propelled grenades. 15 attackers were injured. The war in Iraq has cost the lives of at least 30,000 Iraqis and more than 2,500 troops from the U.S.-led coalition. Washington has spent well over $200 billion to reshape the country, and the White House says remarkable progress has been made. But what's the reality for the Iraqi people? Nick Robertson finds out.
Power stations have been built. Politicians elected, deselected, re-elected, democracy put into action. Around it all, concrete barriers have grown higher, bigger, longer, security tighter. Progress is being fenced in. Innocent Iraqis are being killed by insurgents, sectarian death squads, even accidentally by the US troops who liberated them from Saddam Hussein's tyranny. It is a confusing time. This father of 5, who doesn't want to be identified, explains.
I wish that we go back to the old days in regards to security. People didn't have any mental stress. Now we are living in a turbulence. We don't know what could happen tomorrow.
I've been invited into his middle-class home. They are trying to understand what's happening in Iraq. They have more questions than I do.
Do you feel safe as a journalist when you leave your office and try to report the incidents that take place in Baghdad?
Well, the answer is no, I can't. I can't go outside and I don't feel safe. And also, you don't feel safe talking to me either.
You're right. I don't feel safe talking to you on camera.
They live in fear of insurgents, but they also live with anger. The sister blames US soldiers for killing her brother.
Of course, the situation got worse. We lost many people that are dear to us, one of which is my brother. We are losing many people, paying a high price, and for what?
Later, she told me financially the family is now better off. Billions of US taxpayer dollars financing rebuilding and security projects have helped boost the economy. Earnings are up, but so too is the cost of living. Tea, 500 dinars before the war, 3,000 now, up 6-fold. Milk the same, sugar up 4 times its pre-war cost. Staggeringly, for a country rich in oil, it's petroleum products that have suffered the biggest hikes. Cooking oil, 500 dinars before the war, 15,000 now, up 30 times. And gas for cars, up more than 10-fold, and still in short supply. I can't believe that after 3 years, and we are still waiting in long lines for fuel, he says. It's because our politicians are negligent and selfish. I hear 2 significant changes. Gone, heaping the entire blame on the US, now doled out in equal measure to their own politicians. Gone too, rage over their problems, replaced by resignation. Removing Saddam was good, this factory worker explains, but now we have explosions, an economic crisis, and basic services like electricity and fuel are hurting. 3 years ago, this is where I was, on the roof of the Ministry of Information. After the war, it was looted and burnt out. Now it's still a gutted shell. And just across the road, over here, is where the government supermarket was. It was also looted, burnt out, reduced to rubble. Indeed, this downtown neighborhood of Baghdad looks the worst I've seen it in the 15 years I've been coming to Iraq. The whole city has grown shabbier, trash piles up, and 3-year-old wartime shell holes still scar city center landmarks. Some, particularly the educated young, are leaving. Others, like this medical student, plan to stay.
I hope a good future for Iraq, because the people of Iraq don't like the situation now, and the bombers, that for the kills.
Hope of a better future is what Iraqis were dreaming of 3 years ago. So far, hope is proving only a limited defense against the forces that would drag the country into chaos. Nick Robertson, CNN, Baghdad.
A former university student who lived with Zacarias Moussaoui says the al-Qaeda conspirator told him holy war is the only way to get to paradise. In a videotaped deposition shown in court today, the man said Moussaoui told him it's easy to fly a big jet except for landing and bad weather. Gasoline prices may be going back up now, but they fell sharply in February. And that contributed to an overall decline of 1.4% in prices at the wholesale level last month. It's the biggest drop in nearly 3 years. Good news for this year's college graduates. A company that tracks employment says their job prospects are the brightest they've been in years. Employers plan to hire nearly 15% more new graduates than a year ago. Medical researchers are looking into whether drugs prescribed to treat Parkinson's disease can turn people into compulsive gamblers. The Washington Post reports that Food and Drug Administration scientists have found a strong association, but no firm links between pathological gamblers and the drugs which boost the dopamine level in the brain. A shortage of dopamine causes Parkinson's disease, but is also associated with addictive behaviors. Mothers who get treated for depression could also be helping their children. New research finds that treating a mother's depression could prevent their children from developing depression and anxiety disorders. Did an airline lose your luggage? The air transport industry says you're not alone. And the problem is getting worse. Last year, an estimated 30 million bags were temporarily misplaced. Most people got them back, but some 200,000 bags never turned up. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Amy Reef has the latest weather.
The public is invited to attend Meet Your Legislators on Saturday, March 25th at 9 a.m. in Davis Hall on the Vincennes University campus. The forum will include information from area legislators, followed by a question and answer session. Viewers can phone in their questions the day of the show to 812-888-5334 or send your email questions to wvut@vinu.edu. Our live broadcast begins at 9 a.m. The show will be rebroadcast that same day on WVUT at 5 p.m.
Well, Amy, with the 2 to 3 inches already on the ground for the Wabash Valley, will we have to worry about any more?
Well, it's not snowing right now, but I'm going to advise you not to put your snow shovels up just yet. Good evening, everyone. As we take a look out to the tower cam, we currently have partly cloudy skies and 31 degrees. Wind is out of the north at 17 miles per hour. Humidity is at 71%, and the barometric pressure is at 29.99 and steady. Looking at some area temperatures, cloudy all around. Washington is at 32 degrees, Sullivan is at 28, and over in Illinois, Robinson is at 29, and Olney is at 31. As we bring in our national temperature map, you can see cooler temperatures in the northern part of the United States in the 20s and the 30s. Currently, Cincinnati, Ohio is at 30 degrees. Taking a look out to the west, temperatures are ranging in the 40s, 50s, and the 60s. Currently, Medford, Oregon is at 45 degrees. And for your nation's high and low, we have Scottsbluff, Nebraska at 19 degrees. And we have Miami, Florida at 87. As we bring in our surface map, you can see the snowstorm that swept its way through the Wabash Valley earlier today is starting to taper off as it continues to push its way out to the east into the mid-Atlantic region, generating some snow for New York later on this evening. In the southeast, we have some rain and isolated showers continuing to push their way to the east, followed by this low pressure system right here, bringing them some cooler temperatures over the evening. Out to the west, they're experiencing some wet weather as this low pressure system is also continuing to push its way toward the east, generating some mountain snow showers for the folks up in the northern part, and in the south, some valley rain showers in the folks for Nevada. Now let's take a look at your forecast. Tonight, snow with a low of 30. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 42. Tomorrow night, clear with a low of 25. And let's take a look at our extended forecast. Thursday, partly cloudy with a high of 46, a low of 31. Friday, also partly cloudy, high 46, low of 29. And Saturday, partly cloudy with a high of 47 and a low of 31. Kurt, that's a look at your weather.
Thanks, Amy. Still to come on Newscenter 22, there will be an Unser racing at the Brickyard this May. Kristen Miller will have the details coming up in sports.
Tuesday on Frontline. They are schizophrenic.
Tried to kill myself about 17 times.
Paranoid.
This is a plot by the government.
And psychotic.
Thorazine me out, leave me for lost.
But they are not in mental hospitals.
You know what you did,
They are in prison.
The attitude has been lock people away, then they're no longer a problem.
Have America's prisons become the new asylums? Watch Frontline, Tuesday at 9, only on PBS.
Unser returning to the Brickyard. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Kristen Miller. Two-time Indianapolis 500 winner Al Unser Jr. will come out of retirement to drive at Indy this year. The 43-year-old Unser last raced in the IndyCar Series in 2004. He'll drive this year for Dreyer and Reinbold Racing, teamed with 1996 Indy winner Buddy Lazier. Unser won the Indy 500 in 1992 and 1994. He broke his pelvis in October 2003 in an all-terrain vehicle accident in New Mexico. After months of rehabilitation, he signed with Patrick Racing in March 2004, but missed the first 3 races of the season. The Pacers visit the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. The Pacers won this season's only prior meeting, 80-66, on December 10th at Conseco Fieldhouse, when All-Star forward Jermaine O'Neal had 20 points, 14 rebounds, and blocked 5 shots. O'Neal remained sidelined with a left groin tear. The Detroit Pistons are the first NBA team to clinch a playoff berth this season. The Pistons wrapped up the Central Division title last night by building a 19-point halftime lead in a 91-84 win over Atlanta. Rasheed Wallace had 26 points and 8 rebounds as the Pistons improved to a league-best 53-13 while moving closer to clinching the top seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. The Los Angeles Lakers salvaged the finale of a 3-game road swing by downing Boston 105-97. Kobe Bryant shot 18 for 39 and finished with 43 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Lamar Odom added 17 points and 9 boards as the Lakers moved a half a game ahead of Sacramento for 7th in the West. Paul Pierce led Boston with 26 points. The Celtics are 4 games out of a playoff berth. Michael Redd scored 23 points and Milwaukee completed a home-and-home sweep by topping Portland 100-93. TJ Ford added 19 points and 10 assists to the Bucks' 4th victory in 5 games, which leaves them a half a game behind Indiana for 7th in the East. Zach Randolph had 23 points and 9 rebounds in the Blazers' 5th straight loss. Deion Harris hit a buzzer-beating 3-pointer to lift Michigan to an 87-84 win over Notre Dame and secure a trip to the NIT quarterfinals. Chris Quinn had 18 points to lead Notre Dame. The Irish led by 8 points for most of the second half, but went scoreless for almost 4 minutes late in the game. 2 games are on the NIT slate for this evening. South Carolina is on the road at Florida State, and Minnesota plays at Cincinnati. Sydney Valentine scored 10 of her 20 points in the final 3 minutes as the Indiana Hoosiers beat Indiana State 68-62 and advanced to the quarterfinals of the women's NIT. Next up for Indiana is Marquette, which defeated Iowa State 69-63 in overtime. The day and location of the game weren't immediately set. Purdue women's basketball coach Christy Curry says the Boilermakers will try to control the tempo and pick up their shots in tonight's second-round NCAA game against UCLA. UCLA will be counting on 3 top-notch scorers, Nikki Blue, Lisa Willis, and Noelle Quinn. If Lawrence North defeats Muncie Central in the Class 4A high school basketball championship on Saturday, the school will match the record 45-game winning streak by Indianapolis Attucks High School a half a century ago. The Wildcats have been winning by a state best average of more than 21 points a game. 7-footer Greg Oden has been constantly double and triple teamed, yet he's averaging 22 points, 10.5 rebounds, and an incredible 74 field goal percentage. Pole sitter Casey Kane has earned his 2nd career Nextel Cup victory by taking the rain-delayed Golden Corral 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Runner-up Mark Martin finished just ahead of Dale Earnhardt Jr. The outcome leaves Kane 50 points behind Nextel Cup leader Jimmy Johnson, who finished 6th. Bill Lester finished 38th after becoming the first black NASCAR driver to compete in a Cup race in 20 years. Japan can call itself the world champion of baseball. The Japanese have captured the inaugural World Baseball Classic by crushing Cuba 10-6 at San Diego. Ichiro Suzuki scored 3 times, including once during Japan's 4-run first inning. Ichiro also delivered an RBI single to spark a 4-run ninth after Cuba was 6-5. The Washington Nationals found out last night just how much Alfonso Soriano wants to play the outfield. The All-Star second baseman was penciled in as the Nationals' leadoff hitter and left fielder against the Los Angeles Dodgers. But Soriano refused to play left even after a 20-minute conversation with manager Frank Robinson before the game. General Manager Jim Bowden says his biggest offseason acquisition will go on the disqualify list if he doesn't agree to switch positions this week. The Cincinnati Reds have acquired catcher David Ross in a trade with the San Diego Padres for pitcher Bobby Basham. The 29-year-old Ross batted a combined .240 with 3 homers and 15 RBIs in 15 games for Pittsburgh and San Diego last season. This spring, Ross was batting .529 with 3 homers and 7 RBIs. And Kurt, that's a look at sports.
Thanks, Kristen. Still to come on Newscenter 22, there have been a lot of media reports lately on the side effects of the sleep drug Ambien. Jeannie Most reports on some of the stranger reactions to the medication.
Expect a masterpiece.
It was love at first sight.
A match made in paradise.
Almost too good to be true.
She's not like your ordinary English girl. She's independent. She's spirited.
But can paradise survive in the real world?
How could she betray me with this man?
You don't trust me at all, do you?
From the novel by Anthony Trollope.
He's changed.
He knew he was right on Masterpiece Theater.
Some people say Ambien, the nation's most widely prescribed sleeping pill, not only causes them to sleep, but also sleepwalk, sleep eat, and even sleep drive. And that's just the beginning. As Jeannie Most discovered, some people's sleeping stories are real beauties.
You can bet the makers of Ambien are losing sleep. First came the stories of sleep driving, then came the stories of sleep eating, and now sleep painting? This oil painting wasn't anywhere near done when Itzy Atkins went to sleep, only to awake in paint-splattered sheets.
I was a mess. I oil paint all over my shirt, all over my hands.
And in his sleep, he grabbed whatever he could get his hands on.
With a toothbrush, with my fingernails, and with a Q-tip and my hairbrush.
Itzy has a long history of sleep disorders. The doorman at his Manhattan apartment building describes him sleepwalking to the corner in the middle of the night. He would often eat while sleeping.
You see, I'm licking the peanut butter off my hands.
But peanut butter gave way to magic marker on 20 milligrams of Ambien.
I think I just rolled over and started drawing on the floor.
It's an image of Incubus, a sex demon, and on the back of a movie poster he scrawled what he calls an abstract Charles Manson. Itzy's doctor at the Montefiore Sleep Clinic says this can happen in a state that's half awake, half asleep.
It's like your vision is going and your head is working.
That's exactly right. I mean, people can do quite complex things while they're in this state.
Like having uninhibited sex. On a message board devoted to Ambien, a husband writes that his wife did things she normally doesn't care to do. We had an incredible experience about which, unfortunately, she remembered nothing in the morning. Once a month or more, we'll have an Ambien date.
It's a much bigger thing. It's because it's something people don't talk about. And people have all sorts of sexual activities with other people in their sleep.
It can be a thin line between dreaming and hallucinating on sleep medication. I began to hallucinate and thought a houseplant was talking to me, saying, "Please water me." Itzy, the artist, occasionally took drastic action.
I would put a rope around my ankle and tie it to the bed.
Many describe Ambien as a godsend.
This is like a...
Lifesaver.
Yeah, lifesaver.
Doctors and Ambien's maker emphasize that people with sleep disorders have a propensity to sleepwalk and sleep eat with or without sleep medication. and that the number of people experiencing problems with Ambien is
tiny. It's minuscule.
As for the stories of having sex while asleep,
there's a whole specialty now called sexsomnia.
It's enough to keep you up at night. Jeannie Moe, CNN, New York.
And that's all for this evening. For Amy Reef and Kristen Miller, I'm Kurt Maddox. Good night.
This is WVUT Vincennes.